morning, church. Great to see you all here again this morning. And if anyone's watching online this morning, hello to you as well. You are very welcome. And hello to you as well, Chimamanda. Yes, give me a wave. Hello, good morning to you. We're going to start off our worship this morning by singing a song that is about how God is good. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to remind myself of his goodness, because sometimes I can be a bit of a moaning Minnie and get a bit grumpy and fed up with life. And I was just reading as I was walking up the stairs, actually. I didn't trip over whilst looking at my phone. But in Psalm 77, from verse 11, the psalmist writes, "I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds." So as we come to worship God this morning, as we come to sing a song about God's goodness, just take a moment and remember his works. Remember the things that he's done in your life. Remember his goodness to you. And as you come to worship him, praise him for those things. Lift him up for the goodness that he has shown you. So, Andrew, now that we're all inspired...
Let's jump to our... Well, you don't actually... No one jumps to their feet. No one hops in a car. No one does any of that. Yeah, there you go, Mike. No. You don't jump out of a... Anyway, never mind. Right, so I get to play my electric guitar for this first time, which I'm very excited about. But, find some space, dance, do whatever you want to do. Lovely demonstrated by Claire, which you can't see. But that's fine. Cool, here we go.
Your mercy follows me. Your kindness fills my life. Your love amazes me. And I sing because you are good. And I'll dance because you are good. And I'll shout because you are good. You are good, good to me. Truth. And in my darkest night, you shine as bright as day. Your love amazes me. And I sing because you are good. And I'll dance because you are good. And I'll shout because you are good. You are good to me. And I'll sing because you are good. And I'll dance because you are good, and I'll shout because you are good to me, with a cry of praise. My heart will proclaim that you are good, you are good. In the sun or rain, my life celebrates that you are good. You are good, with a cry of praise. My heart will proclaim that you are good. You are good. In the sun and rain, my life celebrates that you are good. That you are good. And I sing because you are good, and I'll dance because you are good, and I'll shout because you are good, and I'll sing because you are good, and I'll dance because you are good, and I'll shout because you are good, good to me. At your name, the mountains shake and crumble. At your name, the oceans roar and tumble. At your name, angels will bow. The earth will rejoice, your people cry out. Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh, we love to shout your name, oh Lord. At your name, the morning breaks in glory. At your name, creation sings your story. At your name, angels will bow. The earth will rejoice, your people cry out. Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh, we love to shout your name, oh Lord. Sing, Lord of all the earth. And Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh, we love to shout your name, oh Lord. There is no one like our God, we will praise you, there's no one like our God, we will sing, there is no one like our God, we will praise you, there's no one like our God, we will sing. Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh, we love to shout your name, oh Lord. Sing, Lord of all the earth. Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh, we love to shout your name, oh Lord.
And crumble. And as we're singing, we're thinking of mountains in our lives. We're thinking of mountains that just look so overwhelming. Can we just sing that one again, but be singing? He loves it when I do this, don't you? but be singing Jesus' name over those mountains, because there is power in his name. As we sing out Jesus' name, mountains do shake and crumble. So let's sing powerfully together now in faith that as we sing his praises, those mountains in our life will shake and they will crumble.
Sing Lord of all the earth.
Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh. We love to shout your name, oh. And Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh. We love to shout your name, oh.
Sing There Is No One.
And there is no one like our God. We will praise you. There's no one like our God. We will sing. There is no one like our God. We will praise you. There's no one like our God. We will sing. Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh. We love to shout your name, oh. Sing Lord of all the earth, and Lord of all the earth will shout your name, filling up the skies with endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh. We love to shout your name, oh Lord.
Lord of all the earth, Lord over every mountain in our lives, Lord over every valley that we find ourselves in, Lord over every celebration, Lord over every despair and every sorrow. You are Lord over all.
As we were singing the first song, I had this picture of God's goodness just hitting the cliff faces. God's goodness like waves, constantly crashing into the cliff faces, constantly crashing into those problems, those obstacles in our lives. And God's goodness never stops. Like the sea never stops moving, never stops. The waves never stop coming in, going out, coming, going. God's goodness never fails. As it strikes the rocks, there's praise. It's that praise that rises to Him. And from our heart rises praise because of God's goodness to us. And I'm so thankful for all He's done. All He's done for me, all He's done for the family, all He's done for us as a church. He's a faithful God, a loving God. And we worship you to this morning. We bless your name. You've never failed us. We will put our trust in you.
And I'm going out on a limb here. I felt the Lord was saying something to me and asked, Lord, what is this right? And then Mike said about family. I felt that someone's relationship with their child is completely broken. It's, the youngster is completely estranged from the father. And I felt the Lord saying, but I have that child in my hands. And I want your heart to be filled with hope. Because I know your child and I will reach out to him in my time. And when he calls out to me, his life will be changed. A new relationship will be
the altar again. Set me on fire, set me on fire. Take all I have in these hands and multiply, God, all that I am, and find my heart on the altar again. Set me on fire, set me on fire. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. My heart stands in awe of your name, your mighty love stands strong to the end. You will fulfill your purpose for me. You won't forsake me, you will be with me. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Oh, to Jesus now. Oh, to Jesus now. Holding nothing back, holding nothing back. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. Here I am. Here I am, God, arms wide open, pouring out my life, gracefully broken. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. You give life. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord, and it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord, and it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you, oh. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you, oh. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only.
I love the way you tried to duck down then, Andrew. It didn't work. Thank you, band, for leading us in that. Okay, just a few notices before we get on to our word for today. Who enjoyed hearing from Ben and Miriam last Sunday? Well, Ben, because Miriam was at home with... How are they doing? Has it spread, Taya, or... Yay! That is good news. That is good news. So hopefully they can carry on with all of their activities and visits they've got planned.
Well, Ben was speaking to churches today, and Miriam has weekends with the churches.
Oh, lovely.
Children are asleep over the time.
So they're all over the place, well scattered and making the most of their trip. Awesome. So it is Giving Sunday this Sunday. It's the first Sunday of the month. Linda has very kindly just grabbed the basket from downstairs for me because I forgot. So the basket will be at the back at the end of the service. And just to say as well, if you would like to support Ben and Miriam in their work over in Vietnam, please do. You can give regularly into our church account and we then transfer it. If you'd like to do that, talk to Linda, who is the fount of all knowledge of things financial, and she will advise you as to how to do that. But you will need to indicate that it is giving for that purpose, so don't just give money in without speaking to her first so that she can tell you how to go about doing that. This Wednesday is evening worship. Who's been to evening worship before? How would you describe evening worship, folks? Awesome, amazing. Does God show up? Yeah. It's just a brilliant time. We spend about an hour. We don't have an agenda for it. I attempt to come with just, a Bible verse or something to get us started, but last time I didn't even need to do that. We just worshipped together, and God was with us, and we really met with him. So do come along to evening worship. That's this Wednesday from 7:30, and it'll be downstairs here. We would love to have you joining us for that. And then just to say, it's only 2 weeks till our baptism Sunday. Yay! We were having complicated conversations this morning about how we actually construct this wonderful new baptism pool that we've got and how we're going to fill it with water. Just of those, well, there's only one of those being dunked here this morning, I think. How do you feel about cold water, Emily? Because we're trying to figure out the logistics of heating it. So maybe pray for a mega heat wave so that, the water is at least not, sub-zero or something. Yeah, don't panic. We're working on it. Mike is going to sort it for us. No pressure there, Mike. So we're really looking forward to that. So that's 2 Sundays' time. Hopefully there'll be lots of friends and family coming along as well to celebrate. So do be ready to welcome our visitors. Perhaps think a little tip here. If we've got visitors, it's nice if there's space in the car park for them to come and park. So maybe if you're able to walk yourself or if you can park further away to save the closer spaces for visitors, that would be wonderful. And I don't know who's on hospitality that week, but if you feel inclined to bring extra yummy cake that week, that would bless us all immensely. So, or even if you're not hospitality, you could bring cake. There's no rule saying you can't. Okay, so I just want to start our message this morning by sharing a little bit of our plans for over the summer, which has appeared on the slide behind me here. So Sunday, the 24th of July, there won't be a Sunday service here because that's our weekend away at the Jarman Centre. I know, some of us are excited. Who's coming? Who's planning on coming along, even if it's just for the day? Yay, brilliant. We are going to have an awesome time hanging out together there. Then the 31st of July and the 7th, 14th and 21st of August will be all-age services here. There will be 10:30 as usual. We try to finish a little bit earlier, and that allows plenty of time for catching up over coffee afterwards. And then on the 28th of August, there will be no service here. But that means that you can do one of 2 things, okay? You can go and be nosy at another church, because that's actually really good fun to do. If you see them doing something better than we do, steal the idea, bring it back and let us know, okay? Or maybe you could invite some friends and family over to yours and just hang out together. Maybe break bread together over a barbecue or break sausages together over a barbecue or something. I don't know, use it as a chance. Don't just let that time drift away. Use it as a chance to bless each other. But the series, the theme that we're going to be looking at over the summer is called Complete Summer. Who would like their summer to be complete this year? I don't know what it takes to make your summer complete. We're looking at the idea of completeness. And rather than me waffling and trying to explain what that's about, I have an amazing video for you from the Bible Project, which will explain. So hopefully, if I click here, it will now play you a video.
The number 7 is a big deal in the Bible.
Yeah, in biblical Hebrew, the word 7 is connected to the idea of fullness or completeness.
And that's something we all long for, but don't often experience. Instead, we find ourselves working endlessly, fighting back chaos with no real rest.
Yes. Now keep all that in mind as we turn to Genesis 1 in the Bible. It begins with darkness and disorder, but then God speaks to bring about light and order so that life can flourish.
And this happens over the course of 6 days.
Each day is marked with the phrase, there was evening and there was morning. But on the 7th day, something special happens.
God stops and rests.
Right. Creation is brought to its completion on the 7th day. And that phrase, there was evening and there was morning, it doesn't appear on day 7.
It's like a day with no end.
On the seventh day, God's presence fills his creation. The land provides for all of God's creatures, including humans, who are appointed to rule the world with God forever.
Kings and queens of the seventh day rest. I can get into that.
But the humans are deceived by a dark power, and they forfeit that rest. They're exiled into the wilderness, where they have to work as slaves to the land.
Until they die and return to the dust from which they came.
But God wants to restore humanity back to that seventh day rest. So he chooses to give the family of Israel that experience of ultimate rest so they can share it with others.
But how? They're in Egypt, slaves to an oppressive empire who's grinding them into the dust.
So God confronts Egypt and he liberates the Israelites, taking them through the darkness and chaos on the way to the promised land.
Now, while they're on their way, they find themselves in the wilderness. It's easy to get lost. Life is a struggle. They're not in the land of rest yet.
But while they're on the way, God invites them in the wilderness to start living as if they're in the promised land.
But how do you practice the future rest in the wilderness?
Well, God tells them that every seventh day they are to stop their work, or in Hebrew, to Shabbat, so that they can rest and enjoy God's good world.
So take a whole day to live as if the ultimate rest has already come.
Yeah, this is the Sabbath, celebrated every week on the seventh day. But there's more. The Sabbath is just one of 7 festivals that Israel practiced every year, each one anticipating that seventh day rest.
That is a lot of sevens.
And there's even more. Every 7 years, the Israelites were to liberate slaves, forgive debts, and let the land rest for a whole year. And then, every 7 times 7 years was the ultimate seventh day rest, called the Year of Jubilee. If anyone had lost their land or gone into debt, all was forgiven, everything restored.
Wow, so the Sabbath, these feasts, the Year of Jubilee, it's all pointing towards the hope of future rest.
Right. Now, when the Israelites went into the land, they forgot their God, and so they forfeited their chance for rest in the promised land.
They're exiled and enslaved again by an oppressive nation, led back into a world of chaos and disorder.
But Israel's prophets said that their exile would end one day, and that the ultimate jubilee of freedom and rest would come, but generations go by, and they're still waiting.
It's at this dark point in the story that Jesus appears, and he launches his public mission on a Sabbath day.
Yeah, he read aloud from the scroll of Isaiah, saying that it was time for all captives and slaves to be released because this was the year of the Lord's favor.
What did he mean, this is the year of the Lord's favor?
He was talking about the ultimate jubilee.
Also, Jesus is claiming that seventh day rest would come through him.
Right, he said that he was the Lord of the Sabbath, and he confronted disorder and darkness in all of its forms, liberating people from sickness, sin, even from death itself.
Yet, Jesus was killed, so even his work was undone.
Well, it seemed that way. But notice, Jesus timed his death to take place at the end of the week. His body rested in a tomb during the Sabbath, and on the 8th day, he rose from the dead.
Oh wait, the 8th day? You mean the first day of a new week?
Exactly. Jesus' resurrection was like the first day of a new creation, where God's light and life broke into the darkness.
So because of the resurrection, we have hope in God's promise of future rest. But we're not there yet. It's like we're still in the wilderness, where we experience struggle and pain.
But as we journey towards that ultimate seventh day, Jesus invites us to experience a taste of real rest now by following him. Or in his words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That complete rest, that's what we want to look at over this summer series, Complete Summer, Complete Rest. And so some of the different themes that we saw in that video are what we're going to be looking at on the various Sundays. But for today, we're just going to focus in on that last phrase we heard there, where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And so we're going to start by looking at the passage where he says that, which is David's cue to come up and read to us. This is from Matthew chapter 11, starting at verse 28, and then we go on into chapter 12. Thanks. David.
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath." He answered, "Haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priest. Or haven't you read in the law that the priest on Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath and yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath."
Thanks, David. Okay, so Jesus says to us, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest. What do you picture for the word rest? What does rest look like for you? What does it look like for you? Give me some ideas. What's your way of resting? An afternoon snooze. I'm with you there, Taya. Preferably with a dog on the lap. No. Oh. Poor Shenna. She can come to my house and have a snooze on my lap if she wants. An afternoon snooze. David? A cold beer, I'm guessing. And you don't mind your beer tepid? Preferably a cold beer on a hot day in the shade, chilling with a beer. Nice. Anyone else want to share what rest looks like?
To get up for work the next day.
Not setting the alarm, yeah. Just no. Although, do you find, though, Simon, that you still wake up at the same time anyway? But there's something about knowing that you haven't got to get up. Yeah. For Chris and I, that basically means that we have a little longer to do our little routine of Wordle, Nerdle, Quordle, Summel in the morning. That's what we do over our morning cup of tea in bed. It's sad but true. Yes, knowing you haven't got to rush out in the morning. What else do we do for rest?
Rest for me is not having to worry about something. If I've got something quite big coming up in my life and it's taken over a lot of my thoughts, and then that thing has passed, and all of a sudden
yes,
done.
that just,
That's finished.
it's completed. Do you know, I had that feeling earlier this week when we got Party of the Green out the way. You know, we'd had all this build-up, and it's, you know, because not having done it for so long, it's this big, there's so much to be done for it, and then you have the big day. And then, come Monday, I just went, rest, because I didn't have this big thing building up to, Any other ways people think of rest?
Like you can maybe work just as hard, but stop doing something frustrating and do something fun, or something you can achieve.
Spoken with real wisdom. There's something about that, a sense of achievement that you can complete a task, isn't there, that puts you at rest. So you're just changing what you're doing, Do we have any amongst us who like to go for spa days for their rest? Yeah. We've got a few. Okay, so let's go down the route of spa days, okay? Of which I am no expert. I have been to a spa once in my life, okay? So I do not know much about it. But let's imagine that what Jesus is promising us, come to me and have rest, is a spa day with Jesus, okay? Imagine you and Jesus there in is it fluffy white bathrobes you get, I think, don't you, in spas? Is that right? Yeah? So there you are in your fluffy white bathrobes in the spa. What things do you find in a spa? Those who frequent such places, educate the rest of us. What do you expect to find in a spa?
Relaxing massage.
A relaxing massage. Nice. What else? Steam room. Sauna, a quiet room, just for quiet sometimes. What else might you find there? Water, so like a little swimming pool or something, or water to drink as well, I would imagine. Both. Nice, pretty, tinkly fountains or something like that, I'm guessing. Sun loungers. A mud chamber. Now that sounds like fun. I'd just misbehave in a mud chamber and start throwing it around and things. Bit nervous at that idea, aren't we? No mobile phones. Would you expect in a spa with Jesus to find one of these? It's a yoke. Because you see, in that passage we just read, which I'm going to have to look up here to make sure I get it right. Hang on, Matthew chapter 11. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you." Huh? He's just promised us rest. And he immediately follows that with an instruction, "Come to me for rest. Put this yoke on." Now, a yoke, if you don't know, a yoke is what oxen would wear when they were pulling a plough. So if you look at the one we've got up here, those two sort of loopy holes are where the oxen's heads would go. So head through the hole, and then they would be pulling the plough along behind them to plough the fields. It's work. So Jesus is saying, "Come to me, I will give you rest." You arrive at your spa day with Jesus for rest, and he says, "Put this yoke on." Doesn't quite seem to fit, does it? Doesn't quite seem to fit. But you see, the rest that Jesus promises us isn't about a one-off spa day, a one-off day having a cold beer in the shade, or a one-off day having an afternoon snooze. It's about a whole way of living in rest. Our whole life being in a state of rest. And you can't have that rest without his yoke, his way of life, his way of living. Now let's think through this a minute. So a yoke was used by oxen for ploughing. So we can assume that the work to be done is ploughing a field. Okay? Now, when we look at the task of ploughing a field, so imagine Jesus said to you, "Okay, what we're going to be doing this week, we're going to be ploughing this field." What would your initial reaction be when you think about ploughing a field? Perhaps you would run and get your spade or something, or whatever garden tool is the equivalent to a plough, and you go, "Right, Jesus, okay, let me fetch my spade," and start digging. Work up a bit of a sweat. Or maybe you'd be wiser. "We're going to do this efficiently, Jesus. I'm going to save up and I'm going to buy a tractor. And when I've got my tractor, I'm going to buy a plough. And then we're going to plough it with my tractor." We have all these ideas, don't we? Right, here's the task. Here's how I'm going to do it. But Jesus says to put on his yoke. Not figuring out our way of doing it, what we think is the most efficient or the quickest. Not just putting in as much fast effort as we can. By putting on his yoke, following his way of doing it. And so what we're going to do this morning is just think about 4 simple ideas to do with putting on that yoke and living in that state of rest with Jesus. And they are thinking about pace, rhythm, weight, and trust. Pace, rhythm, weight, and trust. So first of all, let's think about pace. And let's have a look at some real oxen doing ploughing and observe the pace. Yes, there's a bonus chicken in shot. What do you notice about the pace? It's quite slow, isn't it? What do you think would happen if they went faster? You'd probably get some very uneven lines because the guy at the back would be trying to keep it, and the plough would probably bounce over stones quite a bit more and end up missing bits. They might trip over. They'd wear themselves out. One of the reasons, apparently, why they use oxen for ploughing like that rather than horses is that oxen are slower and stronger. If you used horses could go a whole lot faster, but they wouldn't be able to carry that weight for so long. It's a slow but strong pace. Does that mean we need to be slow? Well, what's Jesus' example? Did Jesus rush about? Take a moment with me, and we're going to take our time to find the passage because we're thinking about pace. So in your Bible, see if you can find Luke chapter 5, verses 15 to 16. We're in no rush this morning. Luke chapter 5, verses 15 to 16. So it's talking about Jesus, and it says, "Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their illnesses." Here's the field that Jesus needs to plough. These crowds coming to him, wanting to be healed of their illnesses. Verse 16, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Jesus, faced with all of this work, all of these people who needed healing, he often withdrew from that to lonely places and prayed. He didn't rush, panicking that there was so much to do. I've got to get it all done because, he knew he was going to die soon, so I only got these 3 odd years to get this work done in. But he still withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He didn't rush. You might be able to think of other accounts in the Bible of times where he heard of people who needed healing, and messengers were sent to say, "Come quickly, this girl needs healing," or "This man needs healing." And it took him several days to get to them. He didn't rush off to do it. He took his time. He didn't rush. What happens if you are in a pair, in a yoke, and one person tries to go faster than the other? If you're not matching pace. I think we need to try this. I don't have a yoke. Here's my yoke instead. Here's a mop. Who would like to be yoked with me? Biblically, it probably should be Chris, shouldn't it? Are you able to join us, Chris? Let's move things out of range before we... Now, please behave yourself, darling. Okay, so here we are. In fact, we should probably have it like, there we go. We're yoked together. All right there, my dear? Bit of a neck ache. Lovely. So here we are, yoked together. Now, what happens if I go at a slow pace and Chris goes fast? Ready? Oosh. Okay. Does it work? No. You need to match pace. I'll be calling on you again in a bit, so don't wander too far, darling. Thank you. It doesn't work if you're not matching pace. Matching pace with Jesus, following his pace, not rushing. And I think as well in there, because if we're getting into the metaphor, we can try and think, well, is Jesus the one who's yoked next to you, or is he the master at the back holding the plough and all the rest of it? But if we're thinking of him yoked next to you, it's matching pace with him. But then as well, we could perhaps think if Jesus is the master at the back holding the plough, who are we yoked together with as we're working? Because we're not called to serve Jesus alone. We do work with other people. And just consider, as we're going through life, how the pace we're going at might be affecting those around us. We need to all match pace with Jesus. And then there's rhythm. Bit of a cheesy illustration for this one. Up you come again. See if you can match my rhythm. Are you ready? Ready? I'm giving a subtle hint here. Okay, we're going to have to turn around now without taking out all of the band's equipment. What's the rhythm that we're following? You are dismissed. You can go and be at your ease now. What rhythm were we following? Yeah, round of applause to Chris for tolerating. What rhythm were we following? It wasn't a cha-cha-cha or a Charleston. But what were we doing periodically? Pausing. How many steps? Yay! 6 steps. And then we paused. What am I trying to hint at? Sabbath rest. Sabbath rest. Now, we are not legalistic about Sabbath here. And the Bible doesn't teach us to be legalistic about it. It says somewhere in Hebrews, don't judge people over whether they observe festivals like the Sabbath. But the principle that Jesus teaches us of his way of life, his pace of life, his yoke, is that every 7 days you take a rest. You take a rest. Interestingly, in some of the research I've done from this, various books have said that when they've done studies around the world where they've sort of lengthened or shortened the working week, what they've discovered is that if you get people to work more than 6 days a week, their productivity goes down. And actually, if you make people have a day off every 7 days, their productivity goes up. Our instinct as humans is to think, I've got all this work to do, so I've got to just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. But actually, if we're keeping going and keeping going and keeping going, we're actually going to achieve less. If you stop once a week and say, no, switch off from it completely, and perhaps that's where on the spa day, putting the phone away matters, switch off from it completely, we are actually then more productive. You think maybe that's because God designed us that way? You think maybe God has this idea of the Sabbath being every 7 days because that's how he made us to be. We are designed to have that rest every 7 days. So pace, not rushing, taking time, not jumping into everything straight away. Rhythm, every 7 days, having that day's break. and then weight. Thinking about the weight of the burden. Now we're going to look at the video again of the oxen pulling the plough, and I want us to think this time about where is the weight that's pushing the plough into the ground coming from. Where is the weight that pushes the plough into the ground coming from? It's that bloke at the back. Who's our bloke at the back? Jesus. Yeah? Jesus. The weight that's making the plough do its work comes from the master at the back. And what does Jesus say of the weight of his burden? If we flick back again to Matthew chapter 11. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And as we saw with that plough there, it was quite simple. It didn't have any extra frills and fancies, did it? But how many of us know that if we were pulling a plough, we'd look at it, and if it were me, I'd look and go, well, first of all, it needs painting. Okay? So a coat of paint, and then it would need a basket for Alfie, my dog, on there, so he could come along for the ride too. Okay? And I'm thinking maybe a seat on the side so that I could bring a friend along with me. Okay? And then wouldn't it be great if, so that people knew I was coming, it had like some bells or something on it? So I'm going to put some bells on it as well. And then I do like to be prepared, because I'm imagining as I'm going up and down doing my work, I might get hungry, I might get thirsty. So I'm going to put like a little pannier on the side and have a water bottle and a packed lunch in there as well. And I add on all these extras. And suddenly, my nice light plough has become heavy. It's become very weighty. This is a bit like what the Pharisees did further on in the passage that David read for us, when the Pharisees are criticizing them for picking grain on the Sabbath. And Jesus tells them, he says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Because they have added on to the yoke, to the way of life, which, yes, does say that every 7 days you rest. They've added on to that. So, you mustn't do this, and you mustn't do that, and you mustn't do that, and you mustn't do that, and you mustn't do that. And what should have been a really light burden, they have added all these extra laws on and turned it into something really heavy, something really weighty. Now, I'm guessing that's probably not what the risk is for us, adding all the extra rules. But as we look at our lives, how many extra things, how many extra burdens do we pile onto ourselves that Jesus has never put on there for us? These extra expectations of what we must do, of what we must achieve. I've been so struck recently, and this is no criticism of anybody, but I've been so struck recently, I run the parent and toddler group on a Friday. And if you've got little ones these days, see, when my kids were little, there was the basic parent and toddler group at the church where you went and you had a cup of tea and a biscuit, and the kids just played with toys and you kind of sang a bit at the end. But these days, on Monday, you go to Tumble Tots, where your child learns gymnastic skills. And then on Tuesday, you go to the music class, where your child receives a musical education. This is all at the age of 1.5, by the way. And then on Wednesday, you go to sensory play, where you stimulate their senses with all of these different lights and textures. And then on Thursday, you go, and there's all of these classes that these mums feel pressured. If I don't take my child to this thing, then their development is going to be stunted. And I'm thinking, my kids didn't go to any of those. And I think they've turned out okay. Now, that's just one example in that area, but in all areas of life, all of these extra burdens that we put on ourselves of how we have to do things, how we should live, the things we should be achieving. Does Jesus ask us to do those things? Or are we just piling on extra weight that isn't weight that's come from our master at the back of the plough, but is the extra bells and baskets and things that we've put on that are weighing us down and making it harder work? So we've done pace, rhythm, weight, and finally, I think what undergirds all of this is trust. The oxen that we saw ploughing that field there, as they were going along, do you think that they were plodding along going, oh, there's a lot of field to get through today. I don't know if we're going to manage it all. We'd best pick up the pace a bit because we might not get all the way round and looks like there might be rain coming and we need to get it done before the rain comes. Was the oxen thinking that, do you think? No. The oxen was just plodding along, doing what the master told it. It was the master who did the worrying. And it's interesting that the master is at the back. If you were going to lead some oxen, where would you stand? At the front, probably. You'd probably put a lead or something and lead from the front, yeah? But the master is at the back. And apparently, oxen that are trained to pull ploughs, they are trained to obey commands of the voice. The master is at the back there making sure that the plough is going straight and that it's in the ground, and he calls out the commands to the oxen. Left a bit, right a bit. They probably have better words for it than that. I don't imagine they actually say that. Pick up the pace, slow down, go, stop. It's all voice commands that the oxen hear. There is a relationship of trust there that they don't need the master to be pulling on reins or leading from the front, but they just trust that voice behind them and plod on, doing what it asks them. So as Jesus calls us, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Don't leave off the next bit. Put my yoke upon you. That yoke, that way of life, means walking in pace with him. Following his rhythm, taking those Sabbath rests, allowing the weight, the burden in our life to come from him, not from all of those other things. And ultimately, trusting in his voice as it prompts us. Trusting that if we follow his pace, if we follow his rhythm, if we just carry the weight that he puts in our arms, the field will get ploughed. It'll all get done because he's the master. He has the plan, and we can trust him. So as we draw to a close now, the band are going to come up and they're going to lead us in a time of worship. And we're not going to rush the time of worship. We're going to take our time over it. We've got 10 whole minutes before we're officially meant to finish. So there's no rush. And as you're worshipping, perhaps take some time to think about these 4 things: pace, rhythm, weight, trust. And in the sense of not rushing, not putting extra burdens on us, let's not think, okay, I need to do all 4 of these right now. let's listen for our Master's voice to hear one thing, because I don't believe Jesus bundles loads of challenges on us in one go. Let's listen for his voice calling out to us one thing that we can change to come further into his rest. Whether it's changing our pace, whether it's the rhythm, whether it's weight, or whether it's simply about learning to trust his voice. Thank you, band.
Find me in the river. Find me on my knees. I've walked against the water. Now I'm waiting if you please. I've longed to see the roses. Found the thorns, brought our pretty crowns. ends, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. For God and three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all sing, how great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all see how great is our God. He sees the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. He sings the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all see how great is our God.
Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Rest, that completeness of trusting Him, that we're at ease to take this moment to pause just in knowing that our God is great. How great is our God? That's all that's needed in this moment. How great is our God? We trust Him. We listen to His voice. And the burden He puts on us is light. It's easy. How great is our God? Amen. Amen. Do feel free to linger a little longer up here and rest in God's presence if you want to. Just to say, as you leave, I did want to mention, if you felt particularly challenged by this idea of rest and walking that slower pace with Jesus, a book that I stole lots of ideas from recently by John Mark Comer, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It is the most fabulous book. And if you're sitting there right now thinking, well, that's lovely, Claire, but I don't have time to read a book, I think you need to. Absolutely worth it. And it's a very easy read. The way it's worded, it's not sort of long and heavy. It's an easy burden to read. So I highly recommend that book if you'd like to look into any of this more. The offering basket will be at the back as you leave if you would like to make an offering to the church here this morning, but there is no pressure in that. And we hope to see you on Wednesday evening for evening worship. And I will be away on holiday next Sunday, so I won't be here. Yay! Having my rest. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.